Dagda agus tá fáilte roh is mis an Scéalaí Beag. Hello and you're welcome. I'm the little storyteller coming to you today with another Patron inside video for the most recent story. Um, this one's quite fascinating. It was actually a question asked by a member of my community around a Dagda artifact, but it's a very obscure Dagda artifact, and we're talking about the Dagda's anvil. So there is one reference to it that we know of in the Irish law tracts known as the Triads, where, let me get the phrasing right, for a blacksmith to be known of status, they must have the cooking spit of Nethin, the cooking spit of the Morrigan, and the Dagda's anvil. And that is kind of the only reference that we've come across in my research at the moment, and I'm still kind of digging around in it. And it's caused a lot of speculation. There's a lot of uncertainty as to what's involved there. I have known someone to say that in some way it's part of a blacksmith's training, in that they would be judged on what they can produce. So they have to actually physically make a cooking spit to meet certain requirements, or a cooking spit to meet the Morrigan requirements. I think it was a Morrigan person who was doing this investigation of the Fullach na Morrigan, the Morrigan, which is the cooking pot of the Morrigan, but also this cooking spit of the Morrigan. And there's all of the associations with Morrigan's war bands, so it would need to be something able to cook and feed an entire war band. But the Dagda's anvil is just that, it's an anvil. That's the Dagda's anvil, and there isn't much more to go into that. So for me to kind of investigate this further, I went looking into the law tracts myself to as much as I could, and it was a bit of a deep dive. There's lots of really fantastic information in there, but it's recorded as a scenario-based circumstance where you have to read a whole load of, if this happens this, if this happens that, if this happens this, which can be a little bit confusing and convoluted in regards to the language. But there is a segment talking about specifically around blacksmiths and the requirements of blacksmiths and the responsibilities of blacksmiths around anvil work, in that if the anvil itself is unseated, it's the blacksmith's responsibility. If there's a striking, like if there's a first striking upon the anvil, there shouldn't be an issue. If the first glancing of the hammer or the sledge off the anvil, it's not an issue. But if you get to the third glancing of a hammer off the anvil, and the anvil is in good condition and the hammer is in good condition, then any harm or damage caused by that is the responsibility of the blacksmith. And so it actually goes into all these various areas, like if the metal that is struck upon the anvil is hit inappropriately by the striker, then it's the striker who's responsible. Whereas if the metal itself is not kind of adequately like heated through or before, then it's the responsibility of the person on the bellows working, because that's the area that they are responsible for, making sure that the piece is heated through before it comes out to go onto the anvil to then be hit by the striker. So there was this really fascinating kind of breakdown of awareness of the many different facets involved and the responsibilities involved and the dangers involved around working with an anvil. It gave me some clarity, but it didn't give me a lot of clarity around the Dagda's anvil. So I had to kind of go where I do, which is to follow story. And that is what I've done for the most recent story for my patrons. It's called the Dagda's anvil, and it's an exploration of the Dagda's forge and his other relationships. It actually surprised me. It brought in relationship with one of his children who is also associated with blacksmithing work, which is Bridget. But I do hope you enjoyed the story. It's available for patrons now in the Patreon. And as ever, thank you very, very much for supporting me in my work and supporting what I do. I'm really, really grateful to be able to be exploring ancient Irish folklore and, in fact, law tracts and kind of exploring that and bringing it forward in stories for my community. So thank you very much. Gurav Mahagat, Agus Slán. Goodbye.